Okay, it's that time of the day, that time of the week, Monday morning, where we have to do the show, Youth Assembly. Welcome to Youth Assembly. My name is Sylvia Ishebe. I hope you had a rested weekend and you are so revived that you're ready to face the week and ready to conquer. That is the word for the week, conquer. I'm not alone. I'm with my guest, Dr. Kabir Adamu, who is a security specialist. He is a security risk management consultant and also an intelligence specialist. Welcome, Dr. Kabir.
Thank you.
So, how was your weekend?
It was okay, quiet, and with the rain yesterday, it helped.
Yes.
Yeah, the weather was a bit warm within last week, but then the rain yesterday helped a bit.
I felt like the weather was confused, but it's okay. It's okay. Yeah. We are here today, all looking good and ready to look at what the situation in Nigeria is in terms of security. Yes, we are looking at the implication of the attacks on law enforcement officials on national security. What does it say about our national security, and what can we do to rectify the problem before it gets out of hand? It's already out of hand, but something can be done, right?
Yep.
Okay, so attacks on security officials in Nigeria are becoming a regular occurrence. Last week alone, we saw a correctional facility and the police headquarters in Imo State attacked with over 1,000 inmates released, and 11 soldiers who were initially declared missing were found dead in Konshisha local government area of Benue State. Now, these attacks on security officials are coming at a time when the nation is battling a host of security challenges, pockets of insecurity here and there, and virtually every part of the country needs intervention. And so, what is the motive behind the recent attacks on law enforcement officials in Nigeria, and what do the attacks mean for our national security? So, Mr. Adamu, Dr. Adamu, I hope you will be able to break it down for us so that we understand what this means for Nigeria.
And that's very important, really.
Yes, true. So for some time now, law enforcement agencies or agents have, especially the police, have come under attacks. And after the aftermath of the NSAS protest, and recently the attacks on the Southeast, especially Imo State, for instance, now the president has appointed a new acting IGP. What do you think should be his priority at this time as we look at national security?
Thank you, Sylvia. As always, when someone is given a project or responsibility, what we advise in project management is for the person to conduct either a gap analysis or a SWOT analysis. In other words, try to determine his strengths, his weaknesses, vis-a-vis the threats that he's being asked to confront. In this instance, there are multitudes of security challenges across the country. And as the lead agency in charge of internal security matters, he has the responsibility to spearhead how these challenges are being confronted. Now, in conducting this SWOT analysis, one of the first things he should do is to ask himself, what do I have within the police that will allow me to manage this crisis? Now, we're told that there are roughly around 300,000 or thereabout police personnel.
Yeah.
And out of this, probably about 50%, unfortunately, have been deployed to protect VIPs and other rich persons who can afford to pay for their services. So that means we're left with about 150. Now, out of the 150, you need to remove the...
So 3,000 out of 50,000.
300,000.
300,000.
If you take 150 that are protecting VIP,
Okay.
I'm giving the most conservative figure. Some have even gone as far as 70%. Now, it means we have 150. If you remove from that 150, those that are doing admin duties, name them, you probably are left with less than 100,000 that are now have the responsibility to protect you and I. So clearly, he's understaffed. Now, in terms of what he needs to do, the president has given a directive for the recruitment of 10,000 police personnel every year. Unfortunately, that directive has been mired in controversy between the police, Inspector General of Police, or the police force as a whole, and the Police Service Commission, to the extent that they've even gone to court on that matter. I know there has been a court ruling.
Why is this an issue?
Each of them is saying they have the mandate to do the recruitment. And now, my worry is that when they say when two elephants fight, It is the grass that suffers.
course.
It is us Nigerians that are suffering. So in terms of his responsibility, he needs to take care of that. And now I don't care how he does it, unfortunately, but at the end of the day, it is his tenure that would be assessed. Nigerians would see his tenure and then come to the conclusion whether he did well or he didn't do well. So how he manages this particular challenge is really a huge responsibility on his head. He needs to find ways to reach out to the Police Service Commission and make sure that that issue is settled out of court, and that these 10,000 persons are recruited, and that they are given their responsibility to aid the internal security arrangement within the country. Now that's on the one hand. On the other hand, he also needs to broaden his cooperation with the other civil security departments that are carrying out policing functions. As an example, the road safety, civil defense, immigration, all those departments that are carrying out civil security roles. And if he's able to cooperate with them, you and I wouldn't bother that it's the immigration that are helping him, or it's road safety that is helping him in terms of issues.
As long as we see results.
Exactly. So that's my point. Conduct a SWOT analysis, appreciate your weaknesses and your strengths, and then use that to solve the problem. Now, if you don't do that, we're going to assess you on the basis of your performance. And if your performance is not good, then we're not going to be happy with you. So frankly, the vice president, rather, when he swore him in, asked him to do two things. Number one, restore confidence in the police structure system as a whole. Currently, there's a trust deficit. We all know this between the police and very reluctantly would you go to the police to report a matter because of what could follow. Now, how would he restore that public confidence in the police? Number one issue in restoring that public confidence is to make sure that when I go with a complaint and that complaint is verified as genuine, then that my need is able to be met. If it's not met, then that confidence would never be restored. Nobody should ask me to pay money for a file. Nobody should ask me to pay money to, transport, the police to the location where he needs to investigate. Nobody would ask me for money to
make some arrests.
Exactly. So as long as he's able to reduce that, then perhaps some level of confidence will be restored in the policing system. The second thing the president asked him to do is the effectiveness of policing itself. How do we measure the effectiveness of policing? Is a reduction in crime. Once Nigerians can visibly see a reduction in crime, then we'll applaud him.
So with what we're seeing in the nation recently, pockets of insecurity here and there, is that a failure on the part of police? And how did we even get to this point? With all of these things you've mentioned.
Beautiful question.
Yes. How did we?
For me, it's a collapse of our value system. So it would be very unfair to put that blame on the police. Okay. We get, to an extent, what we deserve. What do I mean? As a society, if we agree that we want an improvement in security, then we're going to get it. We would do everything to get it. It could include changing our political leadership. It could include demanding for change on leadership of the security organizations. In this fora, I have mentioned several that there are 27 ministries, departments, and agencies involved in security in the country. Now, it would be unfair to single out just one of them, which is the police, to ask for an improvement. If we're going to see an improvement, it would be the entire 27. So if as a people we want that change, then it will come in the way we talk. It will come in the way we act. While driving here, I saw several people driving against traffic. That's not the government doing that. We are the ones doing that. You are at the store, you want to buy something, you are queuing up, somebody will just come and shunt. And you talk to him, he probably would abuse you. So level.
And you even see people in power doing same. You tend to wonder.
Once there is that perception by Nigerians that we want change, that change would come. We may make mistakes in the process, but at the end of the day, that change will come. So that's number one for me, the value system that we own as a people. And what are the shapers of that value system? I'll quickly mention them.
Okay.
Educational institutions, they're absolutely important in shaping our value systems. Our religious institutions, and then the alpha and omega, our family units. If these three things that I've mentioned, of course, including what you're doing right now, social media, if all of these are working together as a whole to enhance our value system so that we understand, and not only understand, appreciate the difference between good and bad, legal and illegal, then perhaps we'd see a reduction in some of the security challenges. Number two, which is absolutely important, is how we manage our differences. We're different.
Yes,
we,
true.
we should not deny that fact. Ethnic, religious, and sometimes even, we want to bring in social and economic differences. Now, how do we manage these differences? If we manage it in a way that builds togetherness, builds equity, justice, and fairness, then we'll see a reduction in this type of security challenges. I am of the opinion that the types of incidences we're seeing in the southeast, especially in Imo State that you mentioned, is as a result of our inability to manage that difference. There is a perception, as well as perhaps real marginalization in the southeast. Now, if that marginalization is real, how do you reduce the consequences of that marginalization? Is by offering perhaps or increasing participation in the political space, so that the average Southeasterner does not see himself as being marginalized.
Some people have actually said that this is a motive behind the attacks we're seeing in the southeast. What do you think about
It's very possible.
that?
I won't be surprised that it's tied to the 2023 agitation for presidency in 2023 or restructuring. So either way we see it, it's political. If it's restructuring, then of course it's political, because for you to restructure, there would have to be a change within our current constitutional arrangement. If it's 2023, then of course it's political. But the reality is that there's definitely a political angle to it. Irrespective of what the angle is, the fact is that people are being killed, and then the perception of insecurity within the country is increasing.
All right, you can be a part of the discussion. Yes, we have here, right here, discussing the implication of the attacks on law enforcement agents on national security. And our guest is Dr. Kabir Adamu, who is a security risk management and intelligence specialist. And he's also the MD of Beacon Consulting. Okay, so what do you think? The question for you is, what do you think is responsible for the recent attacks on law enforcement officials in Nigeria? We want to hear from you. And if you have questions for the doctor, you can ask at this point, and then we'll take it from here. We're looking for solutions for our country, and you and I, as we know, like he has said, we are responsible. If we want to see change, then we must do it together. All right, doctor. So the motives. You have mentioned agitation, it could be political. Is there any other thing you think could be responsible for what we're seeing in the southeast?
With regards to Imo State specifically, you know how the governor emerged. There was an election, somebody else held sway for a few months before there was a court ruling, and then he was sort of sworn in. Now, perhaps there are elements within the state that are not happy with that type of situation, and because of course they benefited for a few months and now they are no longer. And I'm not sure, I don't know the local politics, I don't know if he brought them on board or found ways to engage them and all that. So I've had him in a sister media station where the governor actually attributed the incidences to a political group that are trying to destabilize the state. His aides too have also been on national TV, and they've also mentioned during their submissions that there is a political angle to the issues. Now, I know the general perception, including myself, my analysis is that this is the action has been carried out by non-state actors. Now, whether those non-state actors are doing it for themselves, or they are being wittingly or unwittingly engineered by political players to achieve a political objective, only an investigation would show that. And so I'm happy that the governor has instituted a commission to investigate the issues. I'm just hoping that the commission will be transparent, and in both in its investigation and in terms of submitting its report, so that Nigerians would see in a very clear and transparent manner what these motives are. Now, if these motives are political, and the commission puts forward recommendations to manage those political issues, then I think we would make progress. If, however, like some have suggested, and that's the one that worries me, that there is a motive of secession or insurrection behind the attacks, and those that are putting forward this theory are saying two things. Number one, they are weakening the security infrastructure in Imo State and in Southeast as a whole. The moment they weaken that security infrastructure, then they will launch an all-out, insurrection or secession plan. Now, if that is true, they would have succeeded in first, on the one hand, weakening the security infrastructure, and then on the other hand, arming themselves with the weapons that they have stolen from these locations that they've attacked, and then they will use those weapons to now, achieve their objectives. And that's something that should worry every Nigerian, because if that happens, it means unfortunately what happened in 1967 is likely going to repeat itself.
Well, we see the Southeast governors coming together. Sorry, all over social media, the media yesterday. They came up with a security outfit for the Southeast, Ebube Ago. What do you think? Is this a right move at this point? And if it is, what should they be looking at in stopping the insurgency, whatever attacks that is witnessed in the Southeast?
A lot would need to be done to reach that conclusion, whether it's the right move or not.
Okay.
For the simple reason that some analysts have put forward whether the Eastern Security Network, even though it remains quote unquote illegal because it's not been formalized and accepted into the security architecture of the state. Now, if it's rejected, quote unquote, by the people. That I'm talking on
Ebubeago.
What does that mean?
That's the power of the lion, something like that.
Okay.
Yes.
Ago. Okay.
Ago is lion.
Now, if it's accepted by the people, because a few things would need to be done. Okay. Number one, the state legislature would need to pass laws to allow it to operate, since the mandate for it to operate will be given by the state. Remember that currently, security remains in the exclusive list in our constitution. So only the federal government, as an example, can allow the security outfit to operate. But because there is, quote unquote, a lacuna within our constitution that allows legislatures to pass laws even on matters that affect security, and we've seen it happen in the Southwest, the Southeast can do the same thing. All the various states, 5 states in the Southeast, can pass laws to give mandate to this to operate. And now, if that happens, then they have the mandate. Now, questions would have to be answered. How will this outfit be incorporated into the federal security structure? We saw what happened in the Southwest when Amotekun was created. The federal agencies, objected, but then there was a meeting between the federal agencies and the state governors, and then at the end of the day, they agreed some form of arrangement where we're told that mainly Amotekun will be generating intelligence, monitoring development, and then submitting that intelligence to the federal structure. Unfortunately, in terms of operation, we saw how that was breached. On 1 or 2 occasions, we saw Amotekun operatives going into locations, targeting certain persons because they believe those ethnic or tribal persons were behind certain crimes. And of course, if we saw someone as high ranking as the Nobel laureate Wole Soyinka objecting to the civil liberties that were being trampled by Amotekun. So we're hoping that the Southeast governors would take some of these things into consideration and ensure that whatever structure they lay out, first and foremost, would empower this new outfit to address root causes of security challenges. But I must also emphasize that it is not the responsibility of law enforcement to address root causes. It is the responsibility of politicians. Okay. I mentioned earlier on that part of the reason for the security challenges is our inability to manage our political differences. Now, if politicians understand that and they're able to better manage those political differences, then we'll see a reduction in security issues, definitely. So the little that is remaining, the law enforcement agencies will address them. Where politicians fail to address these differences, then unfortunately it's impossible for law enforcement to address. And that's why I said the responsibility is ours as a people to agree that we've had enough of these security challenges, so that we push forward a couple of things. Number one, equity. It's absolutely important. Justice is absolutely important. One section or one segment or one gender cannot be mistreated, and you have peace. It's a no-no.
Well, some people argue that Nigeria have been at the forefront, a lot of Nigerians, especially with the use of social media, calling for change and letting their voices be known and heard on social media. Now, there have been some comments on social media where people are saying that these attacks are payback for the lawlessness of law enforcement agents, and especially the police. And now, what do you make of this statement that you see on social media? Should it be looked at critically and listened to by the officials so that they know where they are lacking and where they need to find solutions?
No, it should. Any grievance, no matter how badly communicated, should be listened to and investigated.
Okay.
Because if you don't address the grievance and allow it to fester, then it becomes, a bigger issue. It's teaching time. They say 6-9, and I think it's partly the kind of situation we're having in Nigeria, where little grievances are left unchecked or sometimes even suppressed. There is this theory that banning the indigenous people of Biafra was a mistake by the government, because what happened is it was banned, it went underground and continued to operate. So perhaps if it hadn't been banned, but engaged with and sort of made to operate more legally, then maybe the results would have been. But it's a difficult situation because I mean they were asking for secession and no government would entertain secession. So perhaps again maybe allowing the National Assembly to engage with them, since they are representatives from the Southeast in the National Assembly, would have been a better way to go about it. But then making them go underground where they're able to operate now, and we've seen the results of that. Unfortunately, they become, as it were, an underground movement that is fighting to an extent some aspects of the state, including attacking security formations that we're discussing at the moment.
All right. Okay. So we have some comments. I asked the question, what do you think is behind the motive behind the recent attacks we are witnessing in the country, especially the Southeast? And Atta Osen Ansi says, a lot of factors contributed. Some aggrieved politicians can disrupt the plan, like you said, and progress of the incumbents. Also, our security system needs to be beefed up. Everyone needs to be conscious that security is everybody's business. So,
True, Atta. It's I mean, if we can do like what the Americans say, see something, say something, then hopefully would contribute to helping the security situation. A situation where we keep quiet when we see such things, unfortunately, will only lead to more of such challenges. But I know there is also a responsibility on the side of government to provide a platform through which you can now contribute. If that platform is not available, then unfortunately it will be difficult for Nigerians to make their contribution. So I think the onus is on the security agencies, government, to make that platform available. I know that the Ministry of Communication and Digital Economy has worked quite actively on that and has provided either the 122 or 112 platform. One of these two, either 122 or 112, is currently active. If you call, somebody will pick it and they will ask you questions and then refer you to the relevant agency. I've tried it and it worked.
Interesting. It's 112. Okay, so how do you think the citizen and police relationship can be improved on? We've had this thing, police is our friend. And some people say, oh, no. Like when you see somebody in uniform, you just tend to, the fear, first of all, you just cut the person off. You don't want to associate yourself with this. So how can that relationship be strengthened in order to fight crime and this kind of attacks that we're witnessing in our society?
So in our opening remarks, we talked about what the new Inspector General of Police needs to do.
Yeah.
And we harped on the importance of rebuilding public trust.
Yes.
So that's absolutely important. The relationship between the two is symbiotic. If the citizens accept and work with the police, then the police will be more effective. And you recall that there is a current move to establish community policing. And community policing speaks exactly to that. The police would be from within the people. Two levels of community policing arrangements are being envisaged. You will have police constables. So you could be a police constable as an example. You will be nominated by your group. It could be women's group. It could be the media association that will put you forward as a nominee. So you will represent you, and then you'll be enrolled as a constable, as an example. And your work will be to manage minor security challenges within your community. So you're a private citizen, a resident of the community that has been put forward by that same community. So your power emanates, number one, from the police, but more importantly, from the people that you represent. And so they would subject some level of authority to you to manage those minor security challenges. Now, the second level is the police community policing committees at the community level. Now, those committees will have representatives from different groups within the community. So it could be the market women, it could be traders, it could be elderly persons, it could be disabled persons, it could be name them from schools, communities. So that committee would have such kind of representatives. Every time they meet, each member will put forward the needs of his community that he's representing. So if it's women, gender-based violence could be an issue. If it's schools are being attacked, they will put forward their needs. So the collection of those needs will be what will be put forward to the police. And then the police will now say, okay, this is what the community needs. We're having an increase in gender-based violence. So these are the strategies that we would use to address gender-based violence. The strategies will be developed together with that committee, and then it will be rolled out. On the other hand, it will allow the committee to monitor the progress of the implementation of those strategies that have been agreed by the police. So, and in the long run, that relationship is going to improve. I see that as a possibility if the community policing arrangement is being introduced. My worry so far has been the lack of progress in the implementation of that plan, that community policing strategy. They announced it in 2019, and then since then we haven't seen much progress. I know a couple of states have recruited the constables, but then I mean, I don't know how democratic the process was pursued with. Whether in our usual manner it was politicians that brought on board their persons or not. If it was done transparently, then it would be helpful in improving this relationship between the police and the community.
Oh well, we hope to look. We're looking forward to that time where the relationship would actually be improved, especially with this new administration.
I hope so. And just to mention, I think it's absolutely important. Just last week, the Minister of Police Affairs launched a new committee for police complaints committee. And the idea is that they are aware there are complaints like the ones we mentioned in our introductory remarks. And so that committee, which has membership from different segments of the society, would now address and listen to those complaints and address them. So in basically doing what the current SARS panels are doing, more or less, listen to those complaints and address them.
But some people will say you won't get the best of the police if their welfare is not improved on. Now, security agents, we know they're facing a lot of challenges, and some people have lost their life. With the answers, people, security police officers lost their lives, and now in the attacks in different parts of the country. Now, how can Nigeria get it right in terms of welfare of security officials to boost their morale and dedication to service?
So the good thing is, as far as the police is concerned, the Police Trust Fund was launched in 2019. Yeah, 2019, and that trust fund is meant to serve three things. Number one, welfare that we're discussing, then training, and then equipment. Now, the trust fund would have a funding base that is unique to it, and would have direct contribution from certain funding streams within the economy. So we envisage the situation where that fund is never going to be dry. It will be always like replenishable. And so if that is done, it means these three things that I mentioned will be addressed, especially the welfare that we're discussing. Now, the fund has been slow in taking off. It had some teething challenges. I mentioned some of its funding streams. Governors were unhappy that those funding streams were going to affect their own state revenues, because part of it was coming from the state, their allocations to the state by the federal, government, and so they objected that they were not consulted before that issue was done. Then the second one, I think, is the FIRS. Also, FIRS also complained that I think there is a percentage of revenue generation that was meant for FIRS, that was to go to that fund, so FIRS to complain. But those teething issues have been resolved. A board has been appointed for the trust fund, and a chairman of that board has been sworn in. And as far as I know, it's because it's active at the moment. So I'm hoping that in the next few months we will see the fund active, and then it would automatically start treating some of these welfare challenges. Now, if we go into the welfare issues affecting the police, I don't think this program will be enough to address them.
True.
So it's a multitude of issues. But again, this structure, this police trust fund that we're discussing, hopefully will address some of the challenges within the policing system, especially the welfare issues. Serving personnel have welfare challenges. The families of late police personnel have those issues. So that's just for the police. If you take the entire 27 ministries and departments within the security architecture, they also have this welfare challenge. So it's a very huge issue that I don't know how we're going to address it as a country, but we need to address it. We cannot have people who are carrying weapons, who we've trained and we've issued combat weapons, and then who have welfare challenges. If we have such a situation, then unfortunately they will be resorting to other means to help themselves, and that's why in certain instances you hear security officials engaging in certain actions and activities that unfortunately are not commensurate with what they were recruited to do.
Interesting. Yes, we know your name is Dr. Kabir Adamu, but if you were to be Inspector, the IGP, Usman Baba, what would you tell your men and women in the force to encourage them to keep up with a good fight and also to tackle the criminal elements in the society?
Fortunately, the Police Act 2020 has made it that I cannot be the Inspector General of Police. And so I would like to tell Usman Alkali Baba to not be in any way bothered that I'm not in any way threatening his position.
At all.
Yes, but having said that, on the light side, he has done what I would have expected, a new IG to do. He's met with his lieutenants, the DIGs, the AIGs, the commissioners of police, and he's also done remarkably well in terms of appointing his core management team. Those are very good first steps. Now, beyond that, I think he needs to enhance the monitoring and evaluation mechanisms within the police structure, so that activities that should not be carried out, any administrative failures, any operational failures, name them, should be quickly detected and corrected. Now, what is the objective of the police? Number one objective is to enhance an effective and efficient policing mechanism within the country. Now, anything that stops him from doing that, especially if that thing is within his power to control. Now, as an example, he's got, and I say this with all sense of responsibility, a couple of officials that unfortunately should never be in the police service. Why? Drug addiction is an issue. Working sometimes under influence of either alcohol or drugs is a huge issue. Corruption is a huge issue. So I will urge him to address those issues, and the best way he can do that is through effective monitoring and evaluation mechanisms. There is this saying that I picked up from Germany: trust is good, but control is better. I will trust you because for one reason or the other, I should trust you. But if I want you to meet the objectives that I've set for you, I should have control measures in place, so that where you deviate from this objective that I've put for you, those monitoring and evaluation mechanisms will allow me to call you. Hey, Sylvia, I've asked you to go and patrol point A, but you're not patrolling it. Why? And then you explain to me, oh, guys, because I don't have money for fuel. And if I know I've already budgeted that money, I'll call up the commissioner of police in that state and say, come, why am I hearing this complaint? So monitoring and evaluation is absolutely important. Unfortunately, it's a huge gap within our security architecture. Not just the police, a lot of the other agencies have that challenge as well.
Interesting. Man with the quotes. You've given us like 2 or 3 right here. And what I won't forget in a hurry is the one you said, if you see something, say something. And that is for you, the citizen who is, yes, you're not a security agent, but you are responsible for some security in some way.
Intelligence, information.
Yes, intelligence.
It's a civic responsibility if you did that in primary school in social studies, you would have recalled that they taught us civic responsibility.
Yes.
Now, seeing something and saying something is a civic responsibility, and that's something we need to revive in our cultures in Nigeria.
Yes, and on that note, we will end today's discussion. We'll leave it at that. So hopefully, we'll have you again soon. It seems as if anything about security, we have you to talk about it because of your wealth of knowledge. Thank you for always.
I'm sure
doing this.
Nigerians will be happy to know that I'll be invoicing you for invitation.
Well, Dr. Kabir Adamu is a security risk management and intelligence specialist. So you know why he's so good in this kind of topics. And he's also the MD of Beacon Consulting. Thank you again for your time, and we hope you stay safe. We will also.
Yes.
And you have the best of the week.
Thank you, Sylvia, and same to you. Stay
Yes.
safe, both in terms of security and
Yes.
safety issues. Let's not forget COVID-19 is still in the atmosphere. Good news is reducing, but then unfortunately there are still remnants of it. So let's keep safe. All the necessary security and safety precautions. Let's practice them.
All right, we looked at the implication of the attacks on law enforcement officials on national security. I hope you learned a thing or two. Please endeavor to share this video and even comment. We will interact in the comment section. So if you have questions, you can drop it there. Dr. Adamu is on Facebook with us. So when he sees one, he will definitely answer.
Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely.
So take care of yourself. This show was produced by Inyoma UKJ. We'll be back tomorrow for another interesting edition of Youth Assembly. Thank you also to all of you who listen to us via Mixlr and our website on www.clickniger.net. My name is Sylvia Ishimi. Bye for now.